DeFi Kingdoms, where you can summon heroes, trade with other players, quest, and fight challenging enemies in a fantasy world brought to life in pixel art animation. Command your legion, claim your legacy.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's AMA with DeFi Kingdoms. Lovely to see you all again, and welcome also to those who listen to this recording a little bit later. But in the meantime, happy to have you all here live with us. We are, as is our tradition, going to start off with a few updates, nothing too crazy, and then jump into our questions. But first, I will also remind you all that Winston here will be fighting a couple of PvP matches during the AMA. So he'll be sharing his screen when that time comes, but they are both sponsored. So if you've not gone and voted on who you think will win, I recommend doing so. So get you some of that prize pool. Get out there and let us know if you think that if you think that Winston is going to win this week or not win this week.
Who are we fighting today, Winston?
It's going to be Kurt Hokage. Should be fun. He trundled out some pretty serious heroes, and I tried to cheat at the last minute, but he outsmarted me. So it's going to be close. We'll see how it goes. I hope I can win these ones.
Looking forward to it. And get out there and vote for either Winston or Kurt, and let's see who can take it. Shout out to everybody out in the crowd who's here already. SBD's out there, Sticks Intern, Cookie, Kong, Spike's out there, Wagme, Bruce. I know I'm missing some other people, Hope's in there, Malatrue. So hello to all of you, and thank you for tuning in at the very beginning. But let's kick things off. We had a patch last night and put out a new system, the Submersian Shells. Hubert, you want to talk about that system a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So hopefully some of you guys have been able to engage with that system. We have essentially made it so that for many of the activities that you can do on Metis, you'll receive some amount of reward in Submersian shells. And those are a non-tradable token that you can use to do like shell raffles that have similar rewards to what you have been able to see on our other chains from the raffle tickets you can get from duels or from third parties. And there's some really good rewards in there too. So I think it's, if you get these shells, it's just, rewarding activity that you may have already been doing. You can receive a bunch for participating in sponsored bouts, for voting in sponsored bouts. I mean, there'll be some earned today with the bouts that Winston's doing. So I mean, there's a good opportunity for you there. And we have quests associated with those as well, where you can receive bonus rewards if you earn 200 shells per day. And then there's also, like, if you can do that for a full week in a row, you'll receive a good chunk of shells. And then there was also like a recurring user frequent quest reward if you can do 30, like every 30 days that you complete a quest, and it doesn't have to be in a row for that one, you get another reward. So all of this is trying to just encourage more use of our systems on Metis. I think there's going to be more than this that we're doing, but this was something that we could turn around kind of quickly since it's using contracts that we've already built. And I think it's it should be really fun. I really like the that aspect of having something daily that you can do. And if you can just come in, and even if you're not even doing PvP bouts yourself, you can be looking out for other people who are doing bouts and just voting on those and earning enough. Plus, if you have heroes staked and you'd have to have influence anyway, but with the number of heroes staked that you have, it can be a little bit easier if you have quite a few staked. So and I guess one other thing to note there, yesterday when we released that, with our front end, we did have something that was blocked that wasn't like actually blocked on the contract side, which is like being able to claim experience for a hero that already is at full experience. Like you can do that. You don't get any experience, but you can do that to get a shell per hero that you claim. And we've updated our front end to now not block you on the front end. So if you have heroes that are already at max level or at a level at max experience and you haven't leveled them up, you should maybe level those up anyway. But if you don't, you can still get a shell by claiming if you'd like. So
awesome.
You can get shells leveling them up too, so you're missing out on those. You don't want to miss out on
several shells. So yeah, get out there and get your shells and get into those raffles. There's already been, I think, 2 closed so far of the small raffles, and they're just going to keep on going. So we also hit another milestone. We have officially surpassed 500,000 hunts completed, which is super exciting, really cool to see. So obviously that's a very large number. Shout out to all of you hunters out there who are putting in the work. Officially surpassed 500,000. And as a reminder with hunts, right now we have the Metis sponsored raffle as well. So every day, 5 winners will win half a Metis each every single day for a total of 120 days. I think there's like 112 days left, I think. So get out there and win you some Metis there as well. We got Metis going everywhere. Metis on DFK Chain for hunts, Metis on Metis for sponsored bouts, Metis going everywhere. And one last update, and then we will move into our questions for the day. And actually, before that, Winston, does your first bout start in 2 minutes?
Yes, sir. 2 minutes. I'm going to actually share my screen here in a second.
So y'all got 2 minutes to get out there and vote if you haven't done it. Make sure you get in there and vote. And then the next one starts 10 minutes after that. So get out there and get your votes in to win some of that Metis as well. Last update. So Dreamer, Sunbear, and Starcat are still in Thailand at DevCon. It sounds like that's been really cool so far. Looking forward to getting a more in-depth update from them for all of you once they have returned back home. But we also, as we announced, I think last week, we will be in the Philippines for YGG Play Summit next week. So that one's going to be myself and Dreamer. So Starcat and Sunbear get to go home. I'm going to the Philippines, and Dreamer is also not getting to go home and going to the Philippines instead. So very, very excited for that. It's going to be an awesome opportunity. Really looking forward to getting to know the YGG folks better and meeting them in person, as well as getting in front of their community. We are going to have a booth. We are also on a panel, and we are doing a presentation. I will just, go ahead and tell you that presentation you're gonna want to catch. So I don't know if it'll be live streamed yet. If it's not, we'll make sure it gets recorded and we'll get it uploaded. But we're going to be dropping some pretty serious alpha about some upcoming stuff. So really looking forward to the YGG experience. Spike is going to be there, which is awesome. Excited to get to meet him. Icy is also going to be there. Another great guy. So excited to get to meet him and see him in person. But yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that YGG presentation, because we're gonna be spilling the beans on some stuff, and it's gonna be really exciting. With that noted, so the YGG event is November 19th through 23rd, which is next Tuesday through Saturday. Our presentation will be after our next week's AMA. I will not be here for our next week's AMA because I'll be in the Philippines at the YGG event, or it'll be 3 a.m. I might be asleep, but Winston is going to step in and take over the hosting duties for me. Much appreciated, Winston. Thank you for always doing that. So there may not be There may not be a PvP match during the AMA next week since Winston will be hosting instead of fighting, but we'll keep you updated. And the week after that, our normal Thursday AMA would fall on American Thanksgiving. So we're going to figure out what we're doing with that. We may reschedule it. We may skip a week. We're going to figure that out. We may do an offline one like we did a few weeks ago. So keep an ear to the ground. We'll let you know. But we're going to be making plans for that as well. Cool. I think that is everything for the updates. I cannot express enough how excited I am about this YGG event and about the alpha that we are going to drop. So I know everybody loves being told that they're going to find out cool stuff later, but yeah, you know, you're going to find out cool stuff later. You're going to find it out next week. All right, rolling into the questions. I'm actually going to take the first couple of questions as well. With the U.S. election now behind us and anticipated regulatory potential changes, what are our thoughts and plans on Joule and centralized exchanges? So part of the concern with centralized exchanges has absolutely been around regulation, and we will, of course, keep an eye on what happens there, although probably not assume that anything will happen until it does. But outside of the regulatory part, we've talked about it before. Most exchanges have very, very, very large and significant listing fees, which is definitely a barrier to getting listed. And then aside from that, the majority of them also want a pretty significant amount of liquidity, which they generally measure in percentage of total supply. The reality is Joule is a very diversely allocated token, which is awesome. I mean, that's what we wanted it to be. And at this point, like, the project controls like 2% of total Joule supply. So there's also a bit of a barrier there. Yes, there are ways around that. There's ways to make it work, but it's not as simple as, just go list. But even beyond that, what we're really trying to bring in is more people playing the game, more people actively engaging in the game. And what happens if we list on a centralized exchange obviously is not something that anyone can know for sure ahead of time. But generally speaking, you're not going to adopt a player because they see your token on a centralized exchange. We're aiming for players who are coming into the game. If there's a player that wants to play the game who's familiar with Web3, they know how to get to the game, or they can learn how to get to the game pretty easily. There's several routes that for Web3 familiar aren't as difficult. If they're a gamer who knows nothing about crypto and wants to play the game, they're not going to go to a centralized exchange either. They don't know about centralized exchanges. Centralized exchanges, even beyond the KYC, generally speaking, when you load funds in, have a 10 to 20 day hold period before you can take the funds out of the centralized exchange. So for a player who's wanting to get into the game, a centralized exchange really isn't necessarily the best route to begin with. So we're really focused on making it easier for people to come and play the game. And that's just not really something that centralized exchange listings accomplish. So we're still open to it. We're still talking to different centralized exchanges. We're still forming relationships. I'm not saying we're not going to do it, but it is not our top priority. All right. Sorry, I talked longer than I meant to there and got distracted from myself. But plans to increase Joule utility and Joule marketing. So in terms of Joule utility, I mean, reality is there is a lot of Joule utility already. There also will be more Joule utility with, the further phases of PvP and the Coliseum build out. So there's always going to be utility added. And then as far as the marketing side goes, that's really where we've been putting more of our attention as of late. So, that's why we're at these events. That's why we were at Permissionless, why we're at DEF CON, why we're going to YGG. So really trying to get in front of people and show them what DFK is today, because a lot of people know the DeFi Kingdoms name, but they don't know what we've done over the last couple of years. And that's what we're wanting to change. We want to get in front of them and show them what we are today and right now. There's a third part to that question, which I'm actually going to pass over to Hubert. When power-ups are made, what is the logic behind the C-Jewel cost?
Yeah, so I mean, we're generally looking at, we don't want to go so high that most players aren't going to be able to do it, and we also are looking at it from kind of a typical standard is like if they were to lock for 6 months, how many Jewel would they need to do this? So I know you can lock for 3 years, but I think some people do that. I don't think everybody does that, and that would cut the amount of Jewel that you would need down by a factor of 6 compared to 6 months. So that's usually what we're looking at, is about this much. How much would that require for them to have? And is this an amount that like a new player would be okay doing or not? Or is this a feature that we're like wanting to treat as being like extra premium? And so we set it kind of at a higher tier for that reason. So kind of the logic that goes into it. It's also something that is difficult to change after we've done it. So we do try to set it at a level where we'd feel comfortable with it, at a number of different like Jewel price points. So it's a bit of a, it can be a moving target, especially, with the price of our token has kind of been at different levels at different times in its life. And, we hope for it to be up again. So like we do have to like try to balance all these things so that, we can avoid needing to change things in the future, because with that system, it is pretty pretty stubborn, I guess. It'd be kind of difficult to adjust things. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. I was catching up on Winston's bout a little bit during that, and it looks like it's a pretty rough go for you this time, Winston.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems to be kind of the way it goes. First game is a lot of misses. I don't know. I don't really know what I can change about that, but I'll try harder.
Just
I'll
get
try
good,
harder.
man. Come on.
That's the main problem, is I'm not really even trying here. I'm just kind of like, whatever. No, Kurt's playing a good game. Kurt's playing good. He's got some good heroes. He's playing well. He's doing good.
Yeah, no, it's been an exciting one to watch, but it looks like you might be in trouble here. I'm not sure you got much of a way back.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this one's gonna turn around for me. I'm gonna ride it out though.
Oh yeah, I mean you got to. You never know. You never know. Uh, let's see. Got a couple more for you, Hubert. When is accuracy determined for delay damage effects? For example, is it during cast or when damage hits?
Yeah, so it should be, unless there's a bug, it should be when it's cast. So it kind of takes a snapshot of the accuracy of, like, if it's a seer, for example, it takes a snapshot of its accuracy at that moment and then uses that when it actually does the delay effect. So in that way, like if the hero were dead, it still like is able to trigger, and or like I guess if there was a significant change, like if they were blinded when they cast it, like that would mean that there'd be a lower chance of it hitting versus like if they were not blinded and they became blinded, the blind wouldn't change the delay effect.
Interesting. So you can't blind in response to a delay effect, but you also can't cast a delay effect knowing that your blind is ending either.
Right.
Very nice. Very nice. Interesting. Any thoughts or plans on speeding up development?
I mean, yeah, I think we are all working as hard and efficiently as we can right now. We're always looking for ways to, be be more efficient. But I guess without like a significant change in I guess our revenue, we're kind of at the speed that we can run. And if that were to change, we could potentially increase hours, increase our headcount. But there's also kind of a limit to like how many people you can add before it becomes not necessarily an improvement in efficiency. Like there's kind of a too many cooks problem that can happen. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, I think unless we see some kind of significant change, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. But I will say, like, we're always getting better at our jobs. Everyone on our team is like very talented, and we're like with our writing contracts, with our art, with our combat engine, like everything. As we get more and more familiar with it, more and we do more with it, we are also able to accomplish more in a shorter period of time. But there's a limit to that as well. So I don't know if there's much more that could be said. But we're doing the best we can.
I appreciate it. Actually, circling back for a moment to the previous question, because chat made a good point. So delay, your accuracy is done when you cast. What about channeling?
So channeling is when it actually goes off. So yeah, like if you're blinded while channeling, like right now, if Vivina, so I don't know if that's how you say that, we're blinded, then that channeled ability would have lower accuracy. So yeah, that's how that works.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Let's see. I'm going to take this one. Is Ava Labs offering any sort of grants or resourcing to help speed up development? If grants are not available, any discussions regarding funding or liquidity injection? So from the Ava Labs perspective, so they actually did give us a grant shortly after the catastrophic event of the chain that shall not be named, in order to help us, stay alive, which was greatly appreciated. Currently, no, we don't have any kind of grant agreements or anything in place with Ava Labs. As far as like liquidity injection or funding or raising, again, something that we're always open to, especially as the market transitions, I guess is the safest way to say that. Things like that could become more potentially feasible. We've talked in the past, it's very, very rough to raise in a bad market. And so, as the market transitions, different doors open. So again, it is something that we're open to, but we want to make sure that we do it right. We do it in a way that is safe for the community as well, because a lot of times, like, most brand new projects that are VC backed are just given a lot of tokens. That's essentially the trade-off. But then they can sell all of those tokens. So we want to make sure we do it in a way that's, safe for the community as well, safe for us. And we want to make sure that if we were to go that route, we get a valuation that we feel like is actually fair and, that we are satisfied with as well. So again, it's something that we're open to. It's something that we're always, talking to people about, building relationships around. But it also has to make sense to pull that trigger. Let's see, switching back over to you for for several in a row. It's Hubert hour time. Oh man, I didn't realize how many. It is definitely Hubert hour time. Let's go.
Yay.
Once item durability is in place, will duels consume durability?
Potentially for the dual specific items. I've talked to Fox about that a little bit. But with duels, you do a lot of duels very quickly. So if we were to do something, it would need to be like different than what we're planning for combat. So possibly, but not going to commit one way or another yet on that.
Nice. Real quick from chat, how's our one-man music department doing? Phenomenally. I am I'm so in love with one of the new tracks that Sam made, and I can't wait for y'all to hear it. It's fantastic.
We got like 5 new tracks in the wings that people don't know about.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. And they're all just amazing because Sam is amazing. So yeah, Sam's doing great, cranking it out. He is absolutely phenomenal. Speaking of duels and equipment, any thoughts on implementation of tiered duel bonuses based on the items equipped? So rather than 1 point per, it would actually vary by item.
So that would be pretty complicated to do, just because the way that the equipment is set up right now is not like it. There could be something that's mythic that doesn't really actually, it isn't an Excalibur, right? Like the party hats, I think were considered mythic because we just released those as like our first thing and made them mythic. But they're actually like one of the most common items out there. So like if we wanted to do something that was more realistic to like the intended value of each piece of equipment, then that'd be like a new thing we'd need to track and update for everything that we create all the time. So it'd be pretty complicated to do. It's doable, but I don't know that it's worth doing with everything else we're working on right now.
Nice. Quick break. This bout seems to be going much better for you, Winston. Not necessarily in the bag, but you're looking in much better shape.
Yeah, this one's not bagged, but it is. It's gone my way a little bit more, I would say. Not entirely. It hasn't been a perfect bout, but I feel like I've landed a few more. I think Kurt's missed a couple of important ones too, so it's been a little more. I don't want to say rounded because it's like definitely going in my favor, but after
Not
that first
as
bout,
one-sided as the previous one.
yeah, after that first bout, it feels a little more even. So, yeah,
Nice.
Good games, Kurt. I hope you lose this one.
Real quick random question from chat. Is Dispel supposed to remove one positive status effect like Cleanse removes one negative, or all positive status effects like Purify does with negatives?
It should be just one, and it would also just prioritize a barrier first, by the way. So Dispel would completely remove a barrier. Also would dispel a ward before it would dispel anything, any other status effects.
Nice. Thank you, sir. Let's see. With the shell system that we introduced last night, any thoughts on how it could incentivize higher level play, such as rewarding more shells for level 20 bouts, or any way that we see that incentivizing the higher level?
Yeah, I'm not sure that every system needs to solve every problem. I like the shell system is really just like the main goal here is to get more people using just the systems in general. So I don't know that we really want to try to make it more advanced than it is already, especially since that would add quite a bit more logic to our complete function, which I don't want to do because it's already pretty heavy. But with that said, I mean, once we have tournaments out, I think our tournaments, except for ones that are level capped, are likely going to be dominated by level 20s and are going to have the best rewards in them. So I think that's going to be where a lot of that incentive is going to come into play once we have that out. And that is our next major goal outside of anything that we're doing in addition to our like contractual obligations. So
awesome. Also on the shell system, any considerations on preventing multi-walleting?
So I mean, yeah, I guess with the I guess extending the question out, it's asking about if people were to stake a whole bunch of level 1 heroes and claim and receive like the daily reward every day that way. I mean, yeah, the system, you can do that. When we were designing it, we did think about that and tried to make sure we put the levels to a point where it would be a significant effort and investment to do that. And they would also be paying for all the gas for all those transactions as well. Just to potentially maybe get more shells than other wallets. So, and the shells aren't necessarily a guaranteed reward either. It just gives you access to the raffle system. So, I mean, I think it's fair. I guess we can wait and see how that goes. I don't know that there's much we would be able to do other than, I guess just increase the daily quest requirement, something like that. But I don't really see it as something that would be a very prolific problem. But I don't know. You guys have any other thoughts on that?
Did you mention Glory and Honor?
Oh, no, I didn't. That's right. So yeah, I mean, we do also have on our list of things, it's the Glory and Honor system, and that one is more of an influence-based system. So like a multi-wallet account that just has a bunch of level 1s is not really going to be able to participate in that system, which I expect people will want to be participating in that. So that one, you'll be better off to have more influence, which you're not going to get that much with just a bunch of level 1 heroes. So
perfect. Yeah. Complementary systems that help prevent issues in each other. Let's see. Please keep in mind this is an idea to think and build upon at a future date, not asking for this to be a soon feature. When it comes to travel, I guess so. There's a comparison to MapleStory, but expectations of during travel that your heroes would have to battle their way through various encounters to be able to reach faraway places. And a secondary part of that, any thoughts on going out to travel and do dungeons or combat with friends?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess to the first part, I do see that kind of mechanic being something that we try to design for, or towards, having there be things specifically that you can only do in specific locations on the map, having it be harder to survive in the farther away places, and having specific scenarios that kind of can occur only by being out there. As far as like doing things with friends in dungeons and whatnot, like that's probably going to be something that we look into even further down the road. I think first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're fleshing out the systems that we're like already building, like our combat engine now. Like something with friends would need to be and maybe a whole new combat engine, or it just be something where you can kind of influence each other's battles to a small degree, and have them run at the same time. But like that would be a whole extra thing. So I think it would take us a bit longer to do. But with that said, we could also have like kind of larger combat content where everyone is fighting their own battle, but the results of those battles all kind of play into like this bigger result, like a basically armies fighting each other, and having kind of trying to defend a location against a whole bunch of different enemies and something like that. I think that would be easier for us to do than where it's like actively multiple players in the same combat instance and being shown and stuff. So
awesome. If you want to play with your friends, that's what PvP is for, baby.
That's right.
So this is a relatively long one. I know you already saw it, so I'm going to try to summarize it a little bit here. But with the implementation of basic equipment, is it an option to have a guaranteed drop of some kind of basic equipment from hunts?
Yeah, I mean, a guaranteed drop of equipment from hunts. We have, over 1,000 hunts being completed every day. So that basic equipment would proliferate very quickly if it was guaranteed. And I know in the question, I think it had an example of like specifically the equipment that you can get from the gold shop. So that would directly conflict with that mechanic of there being a gold sink if we were to do something like that. And generally, I just, that sounds like a broken supply and demand problem, just right from the get-go. So, yeah, I mean, I've heard this talked about before. We have mentioned that we do have plans for kind of guaranteed rewards from hunts, and it's just been something that's been kind of put on the back burner with our deal with Metis, and that is still the case, and it is still something that we do eventually plan to like turn around and get to, but it wouldn't be like a guaranteed equipment drop at every hunt or anything like that. It'd be something more in line with basic economics and supply and demand type things. So
Nice.
yeah.
Thank you, sir. Any plans to make void shards non-soulbound with divine essence or otherwise, I guess?
No, they're going to remain soulbound, though it will create a path to getting them from just from burning like dark summoned heroes. So I mean, there will be a new way to get void shards, but yeah, they will be soulbound when you receive them.
Any thoughts about well, I guess, or is it even possible? Either one. To make the LP fee for in-game item tokens like 0.5 or 1% instead of the 0.2 to incentivize liquidity for those items.
So there may be a setting in the decks that allows us to like change what the fee is like all around across the board for everything. I don't believe there's anything in there that lets us set specific fees for specific LPs. But that is also like a non-upgradable contract. So if there is not, I haven't looked at that contract in many moons. So I can't remember for sure, but if it may be that we can't even change it at all. But if we could, it would be changing one number that would affect all LPs. So I suppose that's something that, if there was a high demand for us to do that, it would impact everybody on everything. So there is kind of a trade-off there. But for in-game items also, we do have the bazaar as an alternative where you can directly sell your own things and be rewarded that way. And the fees that are collected from there also do distribute into the jeweler system as well. So that may be a more rewarding path than providing LPs for the in-game items. I guess it depends on which ones you're talking about. So
Do you have an estimate of how many moons it's been?
yeah, it's probably been at least 500 moons at least.
Real quick, circling back to the last question, because there's some more context in chat. The idea of guaranteed basic equipment would be in combination with functionality of combining level 3 equipment to make level 6 equipment, which I think actually just lowers the demand for equipment further.
Right. And I guess, maybe they mean level 3 instead of level 1 equipment, since level 1 equipment is not an NFT.
I believe they do, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you could upgrade the equipment into a different equipment, I mean, that just, again, it is increasing the supply without necessarily changing the demand. So that would hit the gold economy. So I mean, there's always going to be a trade-off with things that you do, and I don't think that would be wise to do. Yeah, and also I don't know what the benefit would be from getting level 6 equipment from a level 10 or 12 hunt, since level 6 equipment is not going to help you very much.
Cool. Any thoughts on specific quests or drops for each class?
Yeah. So I mean, that's work. That's work that would need to be done. And if we did, specific class quests, I do like the idea of there being benefits to having a specific class in some context. For example, like in a dungeon, there could be like a locked door that if you have a thief in your party, maybe your chance of opening that door or you could have a chance of opening the door without needing a key or something like that. Like, I don't know how far we're going to go with dungeons, like in terms of mechanics, but as an example, I like that sort of class-based mechanic. Or maybe there's another scenario where if you happen to have a dark night while you're doing some sort of something that I don't know what I want to say the words for, but you're doing some sort of questing content, and because you have a dark night, it unlocks your ability to do something else, like that sort of thing. I do like, but making something that's specific, and especially I guess in the short term, like something that like we make something for every class, like that's a lot of work that would need to be done, and balanced around and everything else. And I think it probably wouldn't be worth the time and the time cost to like actually implement that all with everything else that we have on our roadmap right now. But I do think there are ways where we can fit that sort of thing in with what we are building, though. Just it won't come soon.
Nice. I got several more for you. Any thoughts on how owning a Gen Zero can help you in the future if summoning isn't as important in future gameplay?
Yeah, I don't know that the assumption that summoning isn't important in future gameplay is correct. I think it's going to become maybe more important once we have Divine Essence out, because I think that should bring a lot more demand for burning heroes, and with the supply side of summoning having been like taking more time, kind of being reduced with the change in the cooldown timers and whatnot. Gen Zeros are still like the main source of heroes. So I'm not sure I agree with the premise of the question, but with that said, we did also with the influence system, you can get a ton of influence by locking up your Gen Zeros in by pledging them as bannermen. In the future, we may have other systems like that where you can use your Gen Zero to give you a benefit of that kind of nature. So we're always looking into places where is there something specific that we should do here? When it comes to combat, no, we usually don't do anything there. But I think as we continue to build out systems, there may be additional reasons, like additional benefits for having a Gen Zero and using it. But yeah, I mean, with summoning, I don't know. I think summoning is going to remain important. So yeah,
Heroes got to come from somewhere, right? If we only dark summon, then we just get down to eventually, well, all the Gen Zeros +1, which that could be cool.
that would be interesting to see happen.
that final dark summon is definitely just going to give us like, I don't know, like
all the recessives pop out. Yeah.
Like, it should be mythic by that point at least, but yeah, you end up with just completely unmatching basic class primary and sub. Let's see. So, thoughts on how we can improve somebody's first combat experience? Tool tips, any thoughts on, instead of like the green circle indicator, doing like a big old arrow over their head? Just general thoughts on improving that first combat experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely could benefit from an improved tutorial. Even if it's just like a slideshow type tutorial that kind of walks through. It's like, when it's your turn, you're going to see this part on the UI and things like that. And we've also been putting out video tutorials as well, but that's outside of the game. So like something that we could go inside the game would be like a slideshow type thing. Changing the turn indicator to be more prominent, I think, is something that we could potentially do. I think once someone understands how it works, like then how it is right now is fine. So yeah, but I think we are always looking at how we can improve the experience and give more information to the player. And I do think just kind of in-game tutorials are something that we just need more of. It's just a matter of having somebody on the team do that. So we are thinking about that. We are talking about that sort of thing. I just don't know when exactly we're going to have that be implemented. So yeah.
And also wiki.
And the wiki as well, yes.
Contribute to the wiki.
Yes, and then maybe we can have a link to the wiki too within the game to like help people get to it, know it exists and everything. So
yes, yeah. Once it gets a little more fleshed out, I do want to bring that up and look at that of where we could potentially place that. So, I've mentioned it the last couple weeks, and I'm probably going to mention it every single week moving forward. If you have the time and the inclination, please contribute to the wiki. It's meant to be a community-made resource. There's already some really good information on there, and the more we add, the easier it is to point players there who are looking for how to start. Upload strategy guides. I think there's already some team comps on there. I think there might actually be a strategy guide or two as well. Link Winston's tutorials or Sticks Interns tutorials or whoever, we really want that wiki, or I really want that wiki to be like a one-stop shop for especially the combat side of things. Once you start getting into questing and whatnot, obviously things get a little more complicated. I think that's fine. That can also be a part of it, but especially the combat side of things, having like a one-stop shop for people to learn how combat works. And really it will only continue to complement as we put things in game, new features, tutorials. Like it doesn't make the wiki any less effective. So if you have the time and the inclination, I highly encourage you all to contribute to that wiki, because I think it can be a great opportunity. I'll get off my soapbox now. What are the thoughts on the reasoning as to why a new player would want to buy great PvP heroes and fit them out with the best armor and weapons to fight if their only reward is the 10% of sponsorships?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess go back to my other answer previously about tournaments being where that's where you're going to see a lot of rewards. The sponsoring system and the spectating system is intended to be more rewarding, to just like bring more people in, get more people interested, have it be more like an esports event where there are people all watching each other, watching these fights happen. So that system is more intended to be rewarding to the spectators. But yeah, I mean, it was always kind of kind of communicated even that our first PvP iteration is going to be just private bouts without a lot of rewards. But once we have tournaments out, that will be that'll be a much different thing. Like the rewards are going directly to the winners of those tournaments, and I expect the winners of those tournaments are likely going to be the people that have some of the best heroes out there. So I think that will be a pretty big driver of getting the best heroes. And let's see, there's also our glory and honor system, just mentioning that again. That when that is out as well, that's going to be a complementary system for having people do more, interact more in PvP, and that as well is going to have like specifically for the fighters rewards that they can get. So we're building more. What we have right now is not necessarily intended to be focused on the actual fighters. There is a reward though. You still get that 10%. It's not it's not the other 90%, of course, but yeah, that's it's kind of hard to build a system that solves every problem. As I said before, it's better to just have multiple systems that all complement each other.
Sweet. When scrub fights come, will level 1 through 9 scrub fights have access to codices?
Yes. So I mean, if that's just asking, like will your knights be able to use their knight abilities and whatnot? Of course. Yeah, I don't know that there'd ever be a reason why we'd want to take away access to a codex in our combat engine. Yes, that will be the plan. I mean, of course, the classes that don't have them implemented yet will continue to not have them implemented yet. But yep, that hopefully that clears up that question.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, I'm going to give you a break here for a second. I'm going to take this next question, and then we got one more for you to wrap us up. So the next question, is there a plan for DFK to be on things such as the Epic Game Store or make a mobile app for iOS and Android to be put on the store there to increase accessibility? So I'm going to say several things here. As far as an app goes, neither Apple nor Google allow crypto on the App Store. So it's not even a matter of us choosing to make an app. If we make an app, you can't get it from the App Store. You would have to side install it on Androids, iPhones, pretty much just be, SOL. So until things change on that front, there's really just not a benefit to us making a mobile app because still nobody could get it without getting it directly from us. Um, as far as like Epic Game Store, for example, so we are a big fan of launchers, which is why we are listed on many game launchers. But Steam, which is obviously the biggest one, does not allow crypto. Epic does allow crypto, but they don't list browser-based games because it's an installer. So again, like Epic isn't going to list us because we don't fall into their categories. Generally speaking, browser-based games are exactly that. They're browser-based games. They are their own websites. They build their own following, and 99% of your interaction is through their website. That's pretty much the norm for basically all browser-based games. But as far as like accessibility, part of the question was, people go to DeFiKingdoms.com. If they want to use an on ramp, are they really going to put in their credit card? I mean, honestly, that's pretty much what all gamers do on the games they play. Like when, World of Warcraft was big, Blizzard was charging my credit card. Like Blizzard wasn't trusted when Blizzard started. That's pretty much the norm in gaming, really across the board, but especially for browser-based games. Steam kind of changed that with installable games because they became such a big hub for them. But like even the mobile games, depending on the game, if you're spending money, some of them go through the App Store. If it's iPhone, they're required to by Apple because Apple takes a cut of it. If it's the Android App Store, they're more flexible. A lot of mobile games charge you directly, so you're still just kind of giving your payment info to that entity and hoping for the best. So this isn't really outside of the norm for gaming in general. Like I said, we're a big fan of launchers, which is why we're listed on many of them. We want to be visible. We want to be accessible. We want to put DeFi Kingdoms in front of people. But the reality is, being a Web3 game and being a browser game, there are many places that will not let us list. And so we have to work within the parameters of what we can do. All right. Final question for you, Hubert, and then we will go into the wrap up. PvP stage 1 is out and love it. Will there be any balancing updates coming soon?
So I will say that there is a list of changes that I've already put in put on Beetle's plate. I mean, they are in the works. Let's count here. Let's see. I think from here is where we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 12 line items there. Of those 12 line items, that doesn't necessarily mean one change. It could mean like change all these things on this class. And there's like a whole list there. So there is a big list of changes that are there, including traits, class changes, and other things. So it's as far as how soon that's going to be, like we're going to need a balance test it all once it's implemented, and we are also working on other things at the same time too. So there are already planned changes. I just don't know exactly when it's coming, but I am pretty happy with the work that Beetle is working on right now. Also, I'll just plug and say, which is kind of a mix of working on those things and other mysterious things. So Yeah.
So excited for the mysterious things. They're so mysterious.
Not going to be mysterious for much longer.
They won't be mysterious for much longer. Which, you know what, since you mentioned it, I mentioned that next week at YGG we're going to be dropping some serious alpha. That alpha may or may not be what the mysterious activities are, so stay tuned for that. Really excited for it. Winston, before we go into wrap up, we didn't get a chance to talk about the end of your second bout there. Anything you want to say about your second match of the day?
Yeah, thanks, Bolon. Not really too much to say about it. Just played a little bit better, and I think Kurt, played a little bit worse, and that worked out to my advantage. It just that's how it falls sometimes. Sometimes you catch stuff, sometimes you miss stuff, and I caught it that second game. I don't know why it keeps going. First game I get rocked, and then the second game is a little more rounded. It's not cool.
Yeah,
It's not cool
you
to
don't
me.
have 3 games so that we can actually have a true winner here, because now you got 2 weeks of ties.
It's true. I mean, I'm kind of thinking of them as separate, exhibition games. Like, it's not there's no ultimate winner. I guess if I lose both of them, then I am the ultimate loser. But
I was
yeah,
thinking we
we're just
round
having
all
fun
of
with
them
these.
up for another AMA to do the showdown matches.
Oh, that's a good idea. Hold on, I know you're going to be in where is it? Philippines next time, but if you're awake at 3 a.m, we could fight each other. I know people have wanted to see that for a little bit, but I know it's 3 a.m. It's crazy.
But are you going to fight and host?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll see. if not next week, then I think we could line that up. We could fight each other and share the host duties one week.
All right. I think I can do them
Whoever's
both.
turn it's not has to read the next question.
Read the question. Nice. But yeah, Kurt played well. Thanks for fighting me, Kurt. That was fun. Let's do it again soon. We'll have to figure out, the 2 out of 3 on that one. Even though those were just exhibition and for fun, no titles or points changed hands in this.
Awesome. Well, I'll kick off our wrap up, and then we'll have Hubert go last and give us a bullish. As always, thank you to everybody who is tuned into this live, and to everyone who listens to this recording later or reads the summary of this recording as well once Winston makes it. But outside of that, thank you to everybody up here for taking the time to answer questions. As always, you can submit questions at talk.defykingdoms.com or the AMA questions channel in Discord. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, retweet, whatever the applicable process for the social media platform of your choice is. Greatly appreciate all of you. Really, really, really excited for what's coming. I'm sorry that I will miss next week's AMA, but make sure you stay tuned for that presentation at YGG. I think you are all going to be very, very interested in what we have coming. And also contribute to the wiki. Let's see here. Let's pass it over to Winston. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Thanks again, Kurt, for fighting me today. And thanks to everybody in the community that's been cultivating, positivity and being kind to each other. And we noticed that, and I think new people notice that too. So it's like I feel like the better we treat each other, the better, the better it feels. So thanks to everybody for doing that, and let's try to keep on that trajectory. And yeah, thanks everybody. Thank you.
Man of the hour, Hubert.
That was well said, Winston. Yeah, I guess I'll just add one last plug for this mysteriousness that is apparently Red Pen is getting irritated by it. So, but there has been a lot of work going on in the behind the scenes for the past several weeks on this, and it's something I'm very excited for. The mysteriousness is not going to last for much longer. Hint, 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 hint. YGG. Hint, hint, hint. But some of the greatest work that our team has put out has kind of gone into this. I think we've done a lot of great things, but just for like the future and things that we're working on and like things that I've wanted in our game for a long time. This will be one of those things. So I'm looking forward to it very much, and it makes me super bullish.
Bullish!
We'll see you all next week.
DeFi Kingdoms, where you can summon heroes, trade with other players, quest, and fight challenging enemies in a fantasy world brought to life in pixel art animation. Command your legion, claim your legacy.